Today is the 19th of Iyar. The Hayom Yom says, Chassidus is divine intelligence. It's an understanding that allows a person to understand how small he is and how great he can become. So obviously the two go hand in hand. The fact that it's a divine insight, that's why you can see that in spite of the fact of how small you are, that's how great you could become. Which, by the way, it ties in very much with what we were going to learn today. So what we say every time we do a mitzvah, we're supposed to start a mitzvah by saying a bracha. And every bracha before a mitzvah has the same formula. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosov, who has sanctified us with his mitzvahs, v'tzivanu, and instructed us to do X and Y. The Gemara tells us, Kol ha'mishanem imatver shetov v'chachamim b'brachos eino elo to'eh. If a person says a bracha using a formula that is different to the formula that the sage has made, then the bracha is invalid. So every single time you say a bracha over a mitzvah, and you have to use this formula, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosov, that Hashem sanctified us with his mitzvahs, that's very precise. It's not just incidental and they chose it. It was a nice expression, and maybe somebody else will come up with a different expression. It's actually a key element of what the bracha is all about, which leads us, of course, to the question, what is that trying to tell us? Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosov. The simplest way to explain it is that Hashem gave us an instruction, so mitzvosov, his instructions, b'mitzvosov, with his instructions. What did he give us? He gave us the opportunity to be holy. Asher kiddushanu, he made us holy. And by the way, the word holy also means distinct. So Hashem made us distinct from the rest of the world, b'mitzvosov, with his instructions. So that's the simplest way to explain it. His instructions, meaning the instructions that he gave us. However, there's another explanation as well, which is quite profound. Whenever you use a word like his, yours, mine, a possessive term, you're saying more than just the fact that I gave an instruction. You're saying the mitzvah is my mitzvah. Okay, that's actually what it's telling us. That whatever Hashem commanded us to do, it's not our mitzvah, it is mitzvosov, his mitzvah. What does it mean it's his mitzvah? So there's a pasuk that says, Magid, we say it in our davening every single day, Magid devarov liYaakov, chukov umishpatav liYisrael. Hashem tells his words to Yaakov, his statutes and his laws to Israel. So the Gemara comments on that. Why the possessive language? His mitzvahs, his instructions. So the Gemara says what this teaches us is that ma shehu metzava liYisrael la'asos hu oiseh. Whatever Hashem instructs us to do, he does them as well. In a different place, they say, I think it's a midrash, says that Hashem is unlike a human king. Usually a human king says, you have laws for you and I have laws for me. I don't have to follow the same laws that you have to follow. But Hashem, whatever he tells us to do, he himself does as well. It's like one of the rabbis in this town always makes a joke. Says the particular individual, who's a very prominent person in the town, and whenever he would have people over on a Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, you're supposed to have what's called a melava malka. So in addition to the meals that you eat on Shabbos, part of the way that you show respect to Shabbos is you have another meal after Shabbos is over. And in order to qualify as a meal, according to many authorities, you actually have to wash and have bread. So this person, whenever they'd have guests over for melava malka, so he would say in Yiddish, he'd say, Ava will appreciate this, he'd say, Chevra, geht sich waschen. Go wash. But he would never get up to go wash. So he'd always tell everybody else, geht sich waschen. Go wash and have bread. But he personally didn't want to go through the whole rigmarole. So unfortunately, that is a common thing that happens. Very often people tell other people what to do, and as the famous cliche goes, do as I say, not as I do. So the Gemara wants us to know, b'mitzvosov, that the mitzvahs that Hashem gives us, they're his mitzvahs. They're his mitzvahs. So now that could mean two different things, and Chassidus explains that both of them are valid. What does it mean, his mitzvahs? So there's two angles. On the one hand, they're called his mitzvahs before he tells us to do them. On the other hand, Kiddeshanu, once we have been sanctified, in other words, once we have done the mitzvah, then mitzvosov, then it becomes his mitzvah. So it works both ways. What does that mean? So firstly, what it means is this. Before Hashem gives us a mitzvah, as opposed to an ordinary person gives an instruction. The instruction doesn't necessarily have anything to do with themselves. For example, a parent tells a child, your bedtime is at 7 o'clock. You've got to go to sleep now. But the parent goes to sleep at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and it doesn't in any way impact or undermine the instruction. It's not my mitzvah. This is your mitzvah. So what the first thing it wants to tell us is, b'mitzvosov, before Hashem gives us an instruction, first he makes sure that it's his mitzvah. That doesn't mean that Hashem does the same things as us, because that raises a whole lot of questions. We're not allowed to irrigate on Shabbos, but Hashem can cause it to rain. Right? We're not allowed to kill, but Hashem obviously takes people's lives. It doesn't mean mitzvosov that he's bound by the same rules exactly as we are. It means that the mitzvah first exists in his realm and reality in a completely abstract, powerful, infinite way. And then Kiddeshanu, then he repackages that mitzvah in a way that we can keep. Because we can't keep the mitzvahs in the way that he does. We don't have the capacity that he does. We're finite beings. He does a mitzvah in an infinite way. So whatever the mitzvah of Shabbos means in divine terms, which is basically a reconstitution of the whole energy of the world to be a higher kind of an energy, which is more connected, whatever it means, for us, that's beyond us. So Kiddeshanu, he gives us access to his mitzvah. He gives us access to his experience by doing things that are humanly attainable, like don't water your garden on Shabbos. So the minute I refrain from watering my garden on Shabbos, the minute I put a coin into a tzedakah box, wrap tefillin around my arm, put a mezuzah on my door, what happens is, b'mitzvosov, I get connected to whatever the power and impact of that mitzvah is in its infinite sense on Hashem's terms. That's an incredible gift. Here we are, frequently complaining about how onerous the mitzvahs are. So many restrictions and so many expectations, and what does Hashem want from me? And there's 613 mitzvahs, and then there's all the subcategories and all the different customs and all the different opinions. And it sounds like I'm carrying such an incredible load. When you start the mitzvah, you say, b'mitzvosov. Every one of those things is an opportunity to connect to how Hashem experiences that same experience, which is a massive gift. That's the first explanation. The second explanation is Asher Kiddeshanu. After we are sanctified, which means after we actually step up to the plate and we actually do the mitzvah. So what happens once we do a mitzvah? Then b'mitzvosov, we actually add some value to Hashem's mitzvah. Can you imagine that? Kiddeshanu. He sanctified us, and through sanctifying us, the mitzvosov, his mitzvah gets an upgrade. Now that's a mind-blowing concept, because we've just said that the whole greatness of the mitzvah is that Hashem invites us into his arena, mitzvosov, by giving us these instructions to follow. But now there's a second explanation which makes it sound like we have something to offer that can add value to his mitzvahs. How can I add value to his mitzvahs? He is infinite. He's beyond. He's incredible. I'm going to add that value to his mitzvahs. Now, before we run away with ourselves and say, well, that's a bizarre concept, there's a strong logical foundation for it. And that is, if Hashem had a mitzvah, and the mitzvah was infinite and beautiful and perfect before we came along, so why did he give us the mitzvah? I know what you'll say. He gave it to us as a gift, right? He gave it for our benefit. He doesn't stand to gain anything. He gave it to our benefit. There's a principle we always teach in Torah, which is that nobody likes nahama de chisufa. Nobody likes to be given everything for free. Yes, it's nice to get gifts, even though King Solomon says, "Soine matono sichye," the person who hates gifts will live. But still, everybody likes to get a gift from time to time. It's nice. But when people keep giving you gifts all the time, the underlying message starts to become, you need the help. You're unable to do things on your own. That's the objection that Judaism has to socialism, right? What does a welfare state teach people? You are disempowered, so the state has to help you. So we say that's not the case. That's not how Hashem created us. On the contrary, Hashem created every single one of us with incredible power and potential. So much power and potential, actually, that he's even created a system that when I take these tefillin and I wrap them around my arm, which, to be honest, is just an action as far as I'm concerned. Some days I'm a little bit more inspired. Some days I pay attention to what it's all about. Most of the time, I just do it. So Hashem's given me the opportunity and the potential, because for a human being to put on tefillin is something unexpected, which means for a human being to do mitzvos, to do Hashem's mitzvahs, is something unexpected. For Hashem to do his mitzvahs, obviously, what do you expect? He's infinite. It's his thing. He cares about it. He decided that this is important. Obviously, he does it. But for us, with our limitations and our distractions and our temptations, to get past all of that and to actually do mitzvos, his mitzvah, upgrades the value of his mitzvah. Because up until a human did the mitzvah was only able to live and exist in its natural environment, in a nice, holy, perfect place. And that's not a surprise. Not a surprise that holy things should live in holy places. The minute a human being who comes along dragging his feet, totally distracted, even while those tefillin are on, the mind is in 100 different places, not focused on Hashem, not focused on the tefillin. The fact that that same human being right now, instead of putting on tefillin, would much rather be back in bed or watching your favorite TV series or on the golf course. So the fact that the human is doing the mitzvah now adds a dimension to the mitzvah that was not there. So we've added a new dimension of holiness to his mitzvah. That's the greatness that Hashem gives us in a mitzvah. He gives us not only the opportunity to experience his world in ours, but he gives us the opportunity to add a dimension to his world that he had not naturally wired into his world. So every single time we do a mitzvah, we should be incredibly enthusiastic. Wow, look at this. I've got a chance to connect to Hashem, and I've even got a chance to contribute to Hashem. Asher kedishanu b'mitzvos. Something to have in mind next time you say that bracha.